Okay. Hello, everyone. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to the 17th of hopefully many episodes of Bard Advice, a D&D advice podcast where I, Charles Chaz Yazik, the DM, the Bard, do my best to dispense advice about D&D, TTRPGs, life in general, etc. Thank you, everyone, for joining. As you may have seen, I did add a couple of moderators, and I'm probably going to do more of that as we go. Oh, hold on a second. There's another one that I want to do. I just want to have that available for people and as to moderation. So just in case there's any, stuff going on, it can be handled. Hopefully that helps in the volume. I was a little bit far away from me on this one. So let's see. All right. So thank you again for joining. Welcome to Bard Advice. As always, at the top of the show, remind everybody to please send questions to bardadvice@gmail.com. It also looks like bardadvice. Please send them on through. Happy to take a look at them, try my best to answer them, and give good advice. If you want to get merch, you can do so at manschwartz.com. And another quick reminder, if you do want to support anything that I'm doing musically, you can do so by submitting any donations directly to my PayPal, Cash App, or Venmo, all of which are Yazik, Yahzick. All right, let's get back into this. So, how's everybody doing? We've had a week or so-ish since the movie came out for that to kind of settle, more people to see it. I did make a few notes for myself on that. So with the... first of all, I'd like to correct my incorrect naming of the guy who played the paladin in the movie. His name is Regé-Jean Page, not Rene. It's R-E-G-E. Regé-Jean Page. So anyway, I thought he was cool. I also made a note that I thought was interesting. Pirate, which I don't know if he's here, but he sent me last week the... an article that Polygon had run about the movie. And one of the things that I thought was interesting in that article is they pointed out that evidently all of the spells were done technically accurately. Now, honestly, I've never really cared too much about that kind of stuff. I was just kind of there to enjoy the movie, which I did. But I thought that was cool. Apparently, they had somebody on set who was like, hey, listen, this is what needs to be done. These are the components, whether they're semantic or material or whatever. So apparently, all of the spells were technically accurate. So those are cool notes, I think. I'll also point out that I was looking at their box info. And they've already made half of their budget back in a week, which is pretty good, especially these days. For people actually going out to the movie. And just a funny note, which I'm sure we all kind of knew, but I just thought, again, was interesting. 61% of the audience in opening weekend was male between the ages of 18 and 34. So, as expected, the neckbeards showed up, I'm sure. Hey, Anthony. Hi, everybody. The material component for the spell haste is licorice. Oh, that's cool. Going to see it Friday. Well, hopefully you enjoy it. I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. I think some people are kind of being kind of meh about it, but whatever. They're going to have their opinions. Speaking of opinions, this week for Art Corner, I didn't have any kind of real artist that I wanted to feature, but I did want to just talk about this show that my wife and I have been watching. It is called Yellowjackets, and I think that it's on Showtime. I'm pretty sure it's on Showtime. It is good. Beyond just like a really strong cast, like obviously Juliette Lewis and Christina Ricci, this might actually be my favorite character that Christina Ricci's ever played in anything. She's awesome in this story. And not to give any kind of spoilers if anybody's interested in watching it, but it's a really cool story. It's I'm pretty sure it's fictitious, but it's based on a true story about this soccer team. It's a girls' soccer team that they're in a plane crash in, like, you know, Western Canada in like the 90s, I think it is. And so then they survive. And the things that they do to survive are questionable, maybe. I don't know. It's very like, the Lost, like Lord of the Flies. I almost said Lord of the Rings. It's very Lord of the Flies, like survival stuff. So that's a cool show. I would recommend it highly if you have Showtime, or if you've thought about getting Showtime. I think just Yellowjackets is worth it for it. I think that's all we really have it for. I'm sure my wife watches other things on it, but Yellowjackets is pretty sweet. So I would highly recommend checking it out. Oh, hey, Justin's in here. Hey, Justin. Everybody say hey to Justin. He just got back from Germany. He's a world traveler, that one. And we just got done with our shoot this afternoon. Living on the edge. It's the only way to be. It's just running it last minute. Some people are already biased from the WotC crap. Yeah. And I think some people are just biased anyway. I think that I'm certainly that way to an extent, just a contrarian for the sake of it. It's just kind of a knee jerk. It's like if everybody's liking something, I automatically question it. But I mean, hey, that's why I say I think everybody should see the movie and have their own opinion on it. Apparently in an interview, one of the writers or producers or one of the big filmmakers that's in charge of the project, he made some comment about how, like, well, we never really intended to turn this into a franchise. And it's like, oh, yeah, that's what you're supposed to say, man. That's good. Be humble. Because, like, of course, that's what the next move is. People are already asking about a sequel. So we're probably going to see more. I think, like I said last week, I think we're going to see similar to what we saw with the Marvel Universe happen with not just with D&D, but with Nintendo. We're going to get, like, you go with the big property first. I mean, in Nintendo's case, right? You go with Mario. I mean, they've already laid the groundwork with Sonic, but you go with Mario because they own Sonic now, right? Or do they not? Is that still Sega? I might not know what I'm talking about there. But anyway, either way, I think that they're going to make a bunch of individual movies, and then they're going to make, like, a Super Smash Brothers Brawl, etc. Dude, that they're going to do a Bowser movie. Absolutely. Like in the same kind of vein as maybe like the Minion stuff. They'll do that with the Toads, but Jack Black is just too talented. You just got to give that guy money and just let him go. I don't know, by the way, if anybody's seen the Lyrical Lemonade video with him as Bowser singing, but I just recently saw it. It's craziness. He's totally out of control. Alrighty. Mario any good? I've not actually seen Mario yet, but I Seth Rogen said, I saw that Seth Rogen fought for the DK rep to be in the movie. So that's pretty cool. That makes me happy. That's I was just talking about it at the shoot today with Melissa, the actress that plays Sarah, with the Mario stuff. Like, I think that a lot of what's happening now is that the popular properties, as it were, when it comes to film and television streaming, is they're trying to tap into my generation, because now we're all kind of like adults and have money to spend. So they kind of just tap into like that, like the Barbie movie. The Barbie movie's a weird example. And that's not just with my generation, that's multi-generational. They're taking like a property that's like, yeah, this is for kids, but then we're going to also put kind of like a spin on it to where like it hits these nostalgia notes for the audience. I certainly felt that watching D&D, and I'm sure that I would feel it if I watched Mario. Going Tuesday. Oh, Tuesday. I might take you up on that, actually. I don't know if I have any plans Tuesday. That could be really fun. Okay, so let's get into some questions, because we have some. And I think that was all of the notes that I had into anything that I wanted to talk about. So let's dive right in with the first question. Oh, no. You know what? I didn't make a list of names, but that's okay. I think that's okay. because the first one, um, the first question is from Brack, and I know that. It's from our friend Brack, friend of the podcast. If you could personally pick a D&D race / class to transform into IRL, which would you choose and why? You know, when I decided that this question was going to be the first question of this week's podcast several days ago, I thought to myself, I should probably really take some time to think about this and give it a real answer. And then I, of course, didn't do that. So now I'm going to attempt to, on the fly, give it some genuine consideration. Knee-jerking to Aarakocra in terms of race just for flight, right? But I'm sure that there's other cooler stuff. It depends on what the restrictions are. Because, like, playable race, quote-unquote? I mean, is that inclusive of anything, like, in the monster manual? Because it'd be cool to be some of those things. Or would it just be, like, playable races? I mean, I'm trying to think of what advantages you could really have / need. You know? A half-elf artificer? I don't know if I would be an artificer. I feel like if I were a class, I would be something that you couldn't be... You know, you couldn't quote unquote be in the real world. Like I would definitely be a spellcaster. Oh, maybe a druid. Oh, dude, I would be a druid. Yeah. In Florida, I would be like the Gator King. I would be like the reptile czar. Yeah, definitely druid. And, you know, race can really be anything. Maybe an Aarakocra, just so I could fly. Spore druid, an elf druid. I mean, what would be the benefit of the elf? That you get, like, what, better dexterity? You're more nimble, like Legolas. You could move around, like, not leave a step. A Githyanki? Yikes, McGillicuddy. Funny, you don't look Druish. Oh, Nebraska, because covered in with the... Wait a minute. Half-elf, probably sorcerer, mage hand plus prestidigitation without having to study or anything. Always tasty food and never have to get up to reach something across the room. Yeah. Can druids learn mage hand? I don't know. You know what? It wouldn't matter because I could just get, like, a snake to deliver whatever it was I needed. Or lizards, or the gators, or any of the animals, really. Sharks, oh man, forget about it. I would just be like, in 3.5 they had a in the 3.5 book Stormwrack, there was a class that I believe was called Wave Keeper. Oh, man, now I want to look this up. 3.5 Wavekeeper. Yeah. They manipulate water and ice. Spellcaster. But I think that they're kind of like... Aren't they kind of like aquatic druids? Don't they get, like... Does anybody know about what I'm talking about? I'm just like talking to a room of people that are like, well, we don't know what that is. Yeah, Wavekeeper. Yeah, they are druids. Yeah. They're aquatic druids. And then, because you can get sharks and stuff. They get divine spellcasting, masterful swimmer, mysteries of the sea, beasts of the sea, wave master once a day. What does wave master do? Beginning at 2nd level, when near a body of water, you can focus a rush of water at a single creature within 30 feet. Jet can bludgeon or push back a creature at your option. As a bludgeoning attack, the wave of water deals a d6 of non-lethal damage per class level. What? A reflex save reduces damage to half, DC 10 plus 1 half class level plus whiz mod. If you instead choose to push back a creature, treat the wave of water as a bull rush with a bonus on the strength check equal to +8 to 8 plus your class level. Man, sorry, I totally got distracted. D&D 3.5 is so busted. It's so overpowered. But it's built it's built in such a way where it's just like everything is more powerful, I guess. I would be an NPC who owns a bar at an inn, cause nothing is more OP than that. Yeah, that's true. Well, you certainly would be the keeper of all of the best stories. Artificer's a close runner-up for me. Haven't dealt with a lot of water-based encounters in your campaign, probably because it's post-apocalyptic and water isn't really safe in the first place. Yeah, that's true. Well, yeah, I wonder with like an attack, with some kind of an ability like that, you could use something other than water. You could use like oil. Florida does seem like wild magic would originate there. Oh, 100%. Wild magic would have like been the byproduct of like, you know, the Sudafed and like a catalytic converter fluid or something would generate that, and then it's like, oh, this person can cast magic spells out of nowhere. Yeah, definitely druid, Brack, definitely druid. And race, you know, I don't know. I think that you could probably find advantages or disadvantages with any of them. But I like the idea of an Aarakocra just for flight, just because it's so cool. Hey, Nathan, how are you? First time in. Welcome. Glad that you were able to make it. Yeah, definitely an Aarakocra druid. That's the IRL move, in my opinion. A pirate-themed 5e campaign. Oh man. If I'm playing. Oh, hey, all right, Chris. Well, thanks for joining. Have a good one. He might already be out of here. Enjoy your game. Changeling. Yeah, you know, I thought about that, and that was one of the reasons that I brought up like what the restrictions were, because, you know, with Changeling, it's like, that is, what else do you need? And technically speaking, druids are changelings, but, you know, changeling like the actual race, that'd be pretty cool. I feel like there's definitely like a drama RP there to be told about like this person of many faces who has no identity. You know, like they could be anyone and so they're no one. You know, very like Arya, Game of Thrones. No worries, Jackal. Better late than never. Welcome to the party. We've only been through one question. We were just talking about IRL racing class stuff. As to what D&D class you would want to be, or race you would want to be IRL. I'm going with Aarakocra Druid. Final answer. I might end up regretting that or changing my mind within 48 hours. I probably will, but that's okay. So thank you, Brack. All right, as I mentioned, I didn't write down the people's names in a list, so it's just going to be a little bit more of a little more tricky, a little more of a game for me to figure out who's who. But I believe that this question is from Hannah. And Hannah asks, I'm playing a spellcaster for the first time, and I'm having trouble keeping track of all my spells and when to use them. Are there any tools or tips you'd recommend to help me manage my spellcasting? Again, I should have looked this up, and I really didn't, so we're going to go ahead and do that now. Oh, Chris, thank you very much for the memberships. Much appreciated. I don't know keeping track of spells. I'm sure chat is going to be popping off momentarily. But I'm sure that there's several different ways of this. You could do this. You could do it with spell cards. Yes. That was actually one of the first things I was going to bring up. They do sell the spell cards, and very likely there are third-party creators that make their own kind of versions of spell cards and/or tools. Feel free to use them. You know, you don't necessarily have to buy Hasbro stuff to keep track of your spell casting. So let's see. Write them out on recipe cards. Scabelli says just don't. No one cares anyway. Well, rules lawyers will, and the DM will care. And it sounds like you probably care. It's just difficult to... I relate to this heavy. It's one of the reasons I avoid spellcasters kind of in general. And if I do play a spellcaster, I don't play heavy on actual spell casting. I usually have got other stuff going on. I mean, like, Augustus Montgomery was a druid, but like he was mostly remembered, I think, for his RP stuff. So, um, let's take a look here. Flashcards worked well, Ian says, for he and his wife. Printable free ones are online. Magic the Gathering cards. Tattoo a spell on each finger. I don't know if that's good advice, Justin. But, I mean, hey, it depends on how into D&D you are. If you really want to make sure you don't forget your spells, that's a good way to do them. Slots, can you draw boxes on your sheets to represent how many slots you have? Tick marks in when you use them. You don't remember Augustus casting a spell. He may not have. It's very possible that he went that entire campaign without ever casting a spell. I mean, unless you count like Shillelagh, because I'm pretty sure he used that, because I like that cantrip. Color-coded cards and sheets. Cat Jazz Happy Cat says, a player in my group brought a diary-style book to keep track of his spells. He even draws the runes to make them look more realistic. Yeah, and I'm sure that there's an app on your phone as well. You could probably just, actually, let's look it up. Let's see. I'll look in the Google Play Store. I don't know. Everybody seems to have an iPhone. I'm in the Android life. But like, spell tracker 5e. There's probably a thing. Oh yeah, there's all kinds. So if you just search in like your phone app store for like 5th edition spell tracker, it looks like there's all kinds of different free spell book stuff, spell cards, books. So that'll help you keep track of things. So yeah, hopefully that answers that. Oh, cool. Some other Android users in the chat. Hell yeah. Sound off. That's what's up. I don't like iPhone. Justin's got an iPhone. Boo. I don't like it. Because they took away all their buttons. They gave them only one button, and now they don't even have a button. It's like, what's going on? Guilty of spell decks. I thought it would streamline play, but it doesn't really make much difference. Could a bard be too sexy? I don't know. That depends. Are they too sexy for their shirt? Are they so sexy it hurts? I don't know. I'm sure it depends on who you ask is the answer to that question. All right. Character sheets track spells and can look them up too. Okay, cool. So, yeah, congratulations on continuing to play the spellcaster in spite of your inability to naturally keep track of the spells, because that's one of the reasons I'd avoid it. Credit to player in one of my groups. He made paper, then he made that into a book for his spells. Has rough edges and all. Very cool. That is really cool. Nice. Okay, well, hopefully that answers your question. Sorry, it's taken me a minute to figure out who the names of these people are, but let's keep chugging along. We're going to get into our third question of the evening, because I've got 7 questions tonight, and I also have a follow-up, so I would like to get into as much of that as possible. This third question is from someone, and I'm going to tell you who it's from. This question is from Steven. Steven asks, I've been DMing for my group for several years. Our most recent campaign/world is one I homebrewed. Oh, nice. It's also very large, and as a result, sometimes calls for hours-long journeys. Any advice on how to make this traveling process more interesting, besides random combat, side quest encounters? Oh, well, you stole my answer there quickly with the second question. So besides like random encounters in combat, well, I think that there are a number of things that you can introduce to the plot that would generate natural role playing. I think one of the good ways to do that is to, I mean, you could do something really sometimes it can be really easy. So sometimes it doesn't take entirely too much effort. Sometimes it can just be as simple as saying like, one of you that's riding in this, one of the members of this party is holding a secret. So let's see. Marcus said, honestly, traveling doesn't need to be exciting unless there's something you want to happen specifically. Yeah, I mean, here's the other thing too, I'll say, because oh, what is all of this? Do we have to do them like right now? I mean, I guess that I could like stop the thing to do it, but that seems crazy. Ba-na-na-na-na-na. Hold, everyone. Hold, please. I've got to take a look at this. This is more pressing than I realized. Oh, wow. Yikes. Well, we really do need to make that. Well, I mean, we'll try and finish this up, I guess, quickly, and then see if we can get that finished up. So, wow. I have no idea, even kind of, what we were talking about. Oh, traveling. Yeah, so I was going to say, like, something as simple as introducing some drama into the group with, like, somebody having a question or somebody, like, not knowing really about what's going on. If somebody in the party thinks somebody else in the party is hiding stuff, that's a good way to get some RP going without necessarily having to do any kind of encounters. Let's get back to what the chat was saying. Not every encounter needs to be a combat, a quest, or generally negative. They could expand world lore or just be amusing situations. Break it into countable portions for the journey. Each day equals X actions for the players, etc. Yeah, that's good. You can kind of like give yourself an idea of like what the breakdown for it should be. Let's see, there's also nothing wrong with the party just stumbling across a windfall. Yeah, that's true too. You know, they don't necessarily have to do anything. They could just come upon something. Pointing out potential landmarks, maybe weather conditions. Another quick note that I was going to just make is that, you know, the travel time is kind of at your discretion as the DM. You know, like you're only traveling as long as you want to. So maybe it's a conversation with the players as to like feeling them out as to whether they even care about the traveling. I think most people don't care too much. Some do. I mean, it does lend itself for good opportunities for RP, but let's see. Daryl said skills practice, inventory, repair gear. Yeah, I mean, a lot of it's just kind of upkeep. I think a lot of it is just kind of keep it going. So I don't necessarily think that you have to do something along the traveling, and at the end of the day, you have full control of like how long that traveling takes. Hooks for other quests later. Makes the group have to decide direction. Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, little things like that, like choosing the direction or changes in the weather is a good one that aren't necessarily events, but also, you know, they kind of just add to the story. A lot of DMs keep track of time and day. Yeah, you know, that's another thing, too. Some DMs don't keep track of that at all, but then depending on what the plot is and what the story calls for, you might want to keep track of time and its passing and remind the players of that. So, you know, that's a way to kind of keep traveling interesting, is that, you know, you give them limited time to move, so they have to focus on the traveling aspect. They can't afford to just like not care, because they've got to make it across the world, you know, by the end of this session. And that's, you know, and if they don't, then they're screwed or something, you know, like somebody loses an arm or gets cursed. Depends on the environment and atmosphere. Either getting there is half the fun or it just gets in the way of their goals. Yeah, that's a good point too that Avram says, is that it does depend on the group. So, I mean, it sounds like the group might be one that naturally just isn't really there for that kind of stuff, which is okay. But again, it's just about a conversation and just transparency about expectation as to the campaign. Because if you're enjoying wanting to do the travel and you're trying to encourage it and to use it as RP moments, and they don't really care, well, that's just like never going to work unless you have a conversation about, you know, whether one side or the other concedes. If it's not that big of a deal to you, then you could just say, okay, well, whatever, we'll just make it, zip, you travel over there. And honestly, a lot of times with DMs that I've had experience with, they will ask. Like, I know that Ethan and then, our original Forever DM Posey, most always, unless it was, specific to what they were wanting to do, or it was specific to the story, they would usually say, like, so do you guys just want to skip this portion, or do you want to, like, travel the road? And I think your group will let you know. Roll, you could say nothing happens. Rolled an encounter. Rolled how many encounters? But the encounters don't have to be combat. Another traveling merchant. A lost kid. Yeah, there's all kinds of, like, little things that don't necessarily have to be combat encounters. It could just be like a lost dog, or, somebody looking for something. You don't need to be a stopwatch. I usually go with you've been in the swamp a while. It's getting dark. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think most DMs, I think, are vague unless something calls for specificity, whether that's the plot or the party. The party will let you know. They'll let you know, believe me. Any DM will tell you that, like, the party's going to do what the party's going to do. And, you can have all these best laid intentions, and then it's like you have this NPC that's an afterthought, and then that becomes their whole goal, is to, like, hang out and spend time with this NPC. They start digging for questions and stuff. It's just kind of the nature of how it goes. So, time your rest with IRL breaks if no planned encounter. Yeah, that's a good idea too. You could just call it, If you're in a group where they're not really feeling the travel, and then you're getting to a spot where is going to be like, okay, well, in game time, this would take like 8 hours. Just call the session. Start when you're over there. And the cool thing about that is that, if you wanted to kind of, like, spring something on them, that would be a cool way to do it. Like, let's say the party's not really feeling the travel and they're just kind of, like, ignoring it. Then you could say that, like, okay, well, let's just call it for this session. We'll come back in a week or 2 weeks or whatever and pick up from where we left off. Then when you get back, they are where they need to be. But, like, there's this whole mess of stuff that's going on because it was something that happened while they were traveling. And then they missed it because they didn't really participate in that. Now, some people might think that that's a little aggressive, because then it's like, well, we didn't know that you were going to do that, and you kind of sprung it on us. But it is an option. I personally think it's better to just talk to them about it and see where they're at. See if they really care about the traveling or not. Or maybe they just want you to make it more interesting. So, thank you for the question, Stephen. Hopefully that gives you some sort of an answer. All right. So we have 4 more questions. You do love a good cliffhanger session. Yeah, cliffhanger sessions are always fun. This is, welcome. You submit a question, WWE. You submit a question by submitting it to bardadvice@gmail.com. Here, I'll pop it up on the screen for you. Thank you for joining, by the way. Where is that thing? Here it is. The email, it's bardadvice@gmail.com. It also looks like bardadvice@gmail.com. Questions welcome. So send them over. I'm not going to know who this next question is until I pull it up, but we're going to move on to it. Now, this question is from Huscarl209. And I know that because it's just such a cool, like, handle. Huscarl asks, "Oh, mighty bard, I seek your sage-scented advice. You're too kind." Seriously, I don't deserve all of those nice things. I'm running a homebrew adventure and am at an adventure plot crossroads. The characters have leveled up enough to impact events outside their immediate area, but the party wants to build a legacy or build a fort in their home base / starting location. How can I send them to regional adventures without neglecting their base building dreams? So the first thing that I did write down on this one, because I did make notes on this one, is reward them with stuff for the base. So like any kind of base building game, like Minecraft or like those survival games like Rust and stuff. Obviously, one of the things that they're able to keep people engaged with is supplies and materials, right? So you're forced to explore out of necessity for collecting materials. So that said, you can very easily, things can be happening in the world around them that directly affect their ability to base build. And that's not necessarily like combat or attacks, right? Like that could be something that's like there's an issue with, like this. Maybe there's like a plague on this. There's some sickness going around on this farmer's farm, and a bunch of his horses died. And so now the people that send the wood out to this area can't get out here anymore. And so now there's like a wood shortage. And so they have to figure out how to resolve that. I think that that's a way to get them out. So not only like little issues like that, but then also like, Anthony said, rare material collection. Like, yeah, I think that you can make it as part of a mandate on them building is that they go out and use these quote unquote adventures or encounters, not only to evolve their characters and improve their characters, but it grants them access into better and cooler stuff for their base. So the more effort that they put in the outside world, outside of their base, the better it is ultimately for their base, right? Let's see. Construction takes both time and resources. Sending them to collect the resources will take some time. Yeah, that's true. And also that presents itself for cool opportunities for like splitting the party and stuff, because like some people will be like, well, why don't you guys go deal with that, and then we can do this. And then that, that creates cool stuff too, and cool encounters, and it evolves the story more. Race to message. The act of building necessarily needs to be a hook, but rather how to hook them after having built the base. Yeah, that's true too, because I think that might be a better question. And that was another one of the notes that I wrote down, is that like, yes, you're having the question now as to like, how can I facilitate them building a base and then going out into the world? But also like, what happens after you finish the base? Then what do they do? Now, is this a situation where like all they want to do is do the base stuff and then they'll do the stuff? So they're saying like, well, listen, just let us build the base first and then we'll go and do the missions and stuff. I think that the obvious answer here is that, the XP, as it were, which, obviously they have their own XP, but the XP for the base is generated through world exploration and doing other stuff with materials. The leadership feed is free if you want it to be. Let them do the base. Bring the regional adventures to them if that can be done. Evil warlord in neighboring nation. He's got to invade someplace. That's a good point that Kirk makes too. They don't necessarily have to go out into the world to have those encounters happen. And, honestly, with them making a base, people around the world would probably be taking note of that anyway, right? Like NPCs would probably already be like, what's going on? What are these guys doing? What are they building a base for? And to Kirk's point, like, yeah, maybe there's another guy. How about this? Here's a plan. Maybe you make your own person who's building their own base. And then you've got like a base race. Of course, that kind of switches what you're doing, but at least it engages them without them having to move, right? Because now, instead of just like cool building their base, they're like, oh man, we got to figure out how to like make sure that we finish before that person does, and we don't know how far along that person is. And maybe then that starts a campaign of like information collection where people are trying to like investigate and figure out like what other bases are doing. Yeah, I think you have a lot of opportunity with that. As much as it seems like they're cutting you off at the knee with like wanting to do the space thing, I think you should, I think you could use this to your advantage and create a lot of cool stuff with it. The Cyan Bloodbane, sorry, I butchered your name. I'm very sorry. But thank you so much for your generous donation of $20, sticking with your resolution to support the content you love to watch. Keep up the awesome content. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. That kind of stuff makes a huge difference for us. It helps us keep this stuff going. And we love making content. Really glad that you enjoy it, and we will keep making it. If you haven't seen the Strongholds book, check it out. Lots of good stuff for bases. There's a bunch of ideas in older books as well. Base has to be better than their base. Our base has to be better than their base. Go scout what they're doing. Yeah, 100%. So that's I think a cool way too, is that you can engage. Is that like allow the rest of your world to take note of what they're doing, and then whatever happens, happens. You know, like they have to. I think that they might be thinking that this is just kind of like an opportunity for them to just like, oh, well, this is fine. We'll just chill and make our base. But like you as the DM should see this as an opportunity to like, they're essentially sitting ducks when it comes to like anything. And not only are they like sitting still physically, but they're not really paying attention to much other than their base. I think that if you do a couple of the things that we brought up, you might be able to throw some fire and incentive into that. Whether it's them having to go collect the stuff, whether it's there being issues with their ability to build their base, or even if it's attacks from other neighboring people who are making their own bases or just trying to thwart them from building theirs. So sometimes the best story hooks come from the players. Yeah, totally. Like a lot of it is just kind of like, you know, set the stage and then just kind of let them do the stuff. And sometimes I think you'd be surprised. Sometimes the players come up with cooler stuff than you would have come up with anyway. Local rules are definitely going to have something to say. Yeah, most definitely. You can't just like build a base in the middle of anywhere, man. Like people are going to have something to say and maybe do about it. So use that to your advantage. Just be like, yeah, sure, you guys can make a base, totally. And then like send like an IRS agent there or something. I'm from the government. I'm here to help. I've got some paperwork here for you to sign. Throw a wrench into it immediately. It'd be really funny. So hopefully that answers your question, Huskarl. I saw that there were a lot of good notes in the chat as well. Chat's always great. They're very helpful. It's just full of D&D players. So property tax, building zone rules. Don't pass go. Can't have any fun anymore. So hopefully that gives you some guidance. Thank you for the question. This next question is from Reggie. Oh man, did you see how fast I figured out who that one was from? Reggie asks, hey Bard, love the pod. I'm running a sneaky rogue in a party of 6. The potential problem is one of alignment. I'm chaotic neutral, and the rest of the party is either LG, LN, or CG. My question is, how do I reconcile my own character's alignment with the goals and direction of my companions? Thanks. Thank you for the question. I don't know if you need to. I'll just say that right out of the gate. I don't know if you need to reconcile your alignment with the rest of your parties in order to accomplish the goals of the party. That said, maybe you do. I would say your best bet right out of the gate is to connect with the CG character, right? Because they're closest to you. First of all, I think that CN is the best alignment. I think it offers the most freedom. You have strong opinions about alignment. Well, maybe you should get involved then, Flat. It's a really difficult question to answer without more context. Yeah, it can be. The first thing I would say is attach yourself to the chaotic good character if you can, because they are closest to you in alignment than the lawful ones. Honestly, I think that this is more of a problem for the LGs than for you. Because, you know, as somebody who's CN, you don't, Flint's about to throw down the hammer. With CN, like, you don't have to really worry about too much. Oh my gosh, wow. Mike, thank you so much for the generous donation of $150. We enjoy your work. Thank you for your time and advice. Thank you, Mike. That's huge. Very, very appreciated. Any of the donations, whether it's $1 or $100 or $1,000, all of them matter. All of them are really appreciated. Thank you all so much. That's great stuff. Wow. Sorry, I lost my train of thought because that was like, man, slamming it. Oh, we're talking about alignment. Okay, yeah. Okay, so CN offers you a lot of freedom, right? You're not beholden to a lot when you're CN. Whereas if you're LG, now, I mean, you could argue that you're not as beholden to alignment as you used to be anyway, across the board. But when you're LG, you have more, I think, to worry about in terms of reconciliation with the rest of the party than if you're CN. Now, that said, I think that you could speak with the CG character about how that's going to work, because the CG would probably be a really good liaison, right? Because they'll probably be a great medium between you and the at least the LG player or players, and probably the lawful neutral ones as well. Just because, like, even though they're chaotic, the LGs will be able to at least relate to the good nature. Excuse me. Let me take a look at what Flint is saying. In my opinion, alignment is pretty much useless and should be ignored. People let alignment dictate too much about their character, allowing it to become perspective rather than descriptive. Oh, no worries, Pirate. I'm glad you're here. First of all, I added you as a thing because I wanted to do that earlier. And I also mentioned that earlier, I believe it was you that sent me that Polygon article about the movie, so I appreciate that. Yeah, I agree, Flint. I do think that people kind of let the alignment guide them, or rather dictate them a little more than guide them, because it really should be about guidance. But I mean, party goals do matter. A lot of this is on the DM too. You know, I think that you kind of are putting a lot of pressure on yourself as to reconciliation, because honestly, one of the reasons that I pick CN a lot is so that I don't have to deal with that kind of stuff. As a chaotic neutral character, you know, it's easier, I think, in my opinion, if you care about that sort of thing, and sometimes the DM does. I think that it's easier to explain away the motivation of a CN character than an LG character for me as a player. And that's why I pick it, because I don't really have to worry about it. Love the channel. Used your mannerisms from DBN for a small bit in session when your character was afflicted with the persona change for a limited amount of time. Oh, that must have been fun. Alignment is a matter of perspective. Example, to a farmer, a paladin accidentally killing the chickens while fighting a raider could be seen as evil. Yeah, but I mean, like, but what does the what matter is the farmer in the party conversation, I guess, is my question. Like, so you need to have a conversation with the DM, because I think that they're probably having a freak out about how this is going to work too. Or maybe they're loving it, because it seems like it's rife for chaos. It depends on what the plot is. Like, if your plot is to do good stuff, and I mean, it very well might be, considering all the L's in your party, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe you can get with the DM to do some, like, sneaky stuff, where it's like you're doing your own storyline that's separate from them, or doing anything to, I don't know. That's tough. I think that you should play the character the way that you want to play it. And that's what I would say to anybody, pretty much across the board. You know, unless you're, like, actively being aggressive or trying to hurt someone's feelings, I think that you should ultimately be allowed to, you know, you're left to that agency to play the character how you want to play it. Now, if your alignment becomes an issue, then who knows? Maybe you make a whole new character with a new alignment that you could cross that bridge when you get to it. But I think for now, you should just try and focus on playing the character in the way that you want to play, and let the people whose alignment, like, really quote unquote matters worry about alignment. Like, if somebody gets killed in front of you as a CN character, you're under no real obligation to reconcile that in your head. you kind of are as an LG character. At least for purposes of like interaction with the rest of the party, right? Like if you were in a group of LG paladins and then you just like randomly killed a child, those paladins are not going to want to hang out with you. And that's just based upon the fact that they're LG. Now, if they were something a little more forgiving, like CG or even CN, it would be a completely different conversation. But I think that you're only beholden to the alignment if you want to be, and if you feel like you need to be. And these days it matters less and less. You know, I've talked before about how alignment was, you know, mattered for 3.5 very much so. You know, your abilities and powers as a paladin hinged on your staying as LG in 3.5. Nowadays that's not so much the case, so it matters less. But I tend to agree with Flint. Let's see. All that aside, if you're non-lawful in a party of lawful characters and want to do crime, just find a way to split from the party when it's not detrimental to the sessions and crime solo. Hell yeah, that's cool too. Yeah, that's another move too. And hey, maybe you and the CG guy can go off and do some stuff where it's like, hey, let's break some laws to, you know, make some money and like help some people. And y'all can do that kind of stuff separate from the lawful people. So then it's kind of a non-issue, or maybe it becomes an issue. Who knows? You know, not all issues within the party are necessarily bad. It could be cool to move the story along. Alignment might matter if magic item is compatible, or if an evil character may not enter a wholly good area versus or vice versa. Useful for detect good and evil for protection from such. Yeah, definitely. So yeah, to Jay's point, there are definitely mechanics where it matters. I just think that, like, I think you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself as the CN character. I don't think it's your responsibility in that group to figure that out. Like, I think you should just play the character how you want to and have fun. All right, let's move, because, man, we are close to the end. I didn't realize we were this close to the end, and we've got 2 more questions left. So let's keep grinding through. This 6th question here is from Chris, as we might expect, as we always get. Chris asks, what are your thoughts on end-of-adventure gifts? Should they be given even if the party loses? As I have said previously, I'm running Curse of Strahd. I recently came across an amazing pin that shows the game's main villain crying with the name Strahd von Zierabitch. My main concern is if they should get the pins if they fail to kill Strahd. And I did make a little image here of the pin so that everybody could see it. If you get a chance to in chat to take a look at it. I think that the end of adventure gift is a really cool thing. I think that's really fun. I don't necessarily know that they have to defeat Strahd to get the pins, but I will say, because that was my initial reaction when I read that question for the first time. But seeing them and thinking about it, like, I'd feel a certain type of way. I feel like if my DM gave them to me and we didn't defeat Strahd, right? So I feel like I would want the competition. You know, like, that's why you don't see any, like, that's why you don't see, like, LeBron James, like, joining the WNBA. Because, like, that wouldn't be competition. The NBA's barely competition for that guy. People that are competitive like to be competitive. And in a game like D&D, even somebody like me who doesn't consider themselves to be very competitive, as I just said, like, I would want to have won and gotten the pen. I would feel kind of like, well, that kind of sucks. So that said, maybe there's a different reward or a different gift for, you know, like an alternate, like a consolation prize, right? So like the pin is the prize, and then there's the consolation prize of something, or maybe there isn't even something. But I just think that it definitely feels better if you earn it, for sure. And I think most D&D players would agree. So I don't think that it's a question of, like, whether they deserve it. I think it's a question of how you want them to feel when they get it. And I think, at least for me, speaking as someone who's not very competitive, I would want to have achieved it. And I'm pretty confident that pretty much anybody that's a competitive person would say the same thing. They should they should fail to kill Strahd. He doesn't need to die to escape his eternal punishment. He doesn't get to die to escape his eternal punishment. Basketball team gave away 2 good players for someone named Kevin Durant. Oh, yeah, man. Well, I could talk all night about basketball and KD going to Phoenix. Yeah, we'll see. Who was it that they traded? Didn't they get rid of Mikal Bridges? Why the hell would they do that? Isn't that guy really good? I guess they still have DeAndre Ayton. Dark nature of the Strahd campaign isn't supposed to be won. It's just how much you can avoid losing. It's dark, dark, dark fantasy. Yeah, that's true too. It is more about the immersion and the investment into the world and story itself, I think, more than actually like quote unquote winning. But yeah, I think that they should. I think most of them would want to earn it. Okay, on my birthday, the group gave me a little skeleton in a suit playing the fiddle. And I said, a little guy pops up on Mustang's shoulder and starts playing the fiddle with Mustang as he plays the lute. Oh, man. Gosh, that's crazy that they got rid of Mikal Bridges. All right. Last question of the evening. I hope that that's an answer, Chris. I think it is. I think you should. I don't think that they should get it if they don't win. If you feel like you want to give them something else, then maybe come up with something else. But that pen, we'll show it one last time for everybody. This pen, that's for, you know, the quote unquote victory. But you know, some people would argue like even if you didn't kill Strahd, you know, you can still have a victory in that campaign and an ending to it. So, all right, last question. This last one is from Kenny. And it's a 2-framer. It's a big question. Kenny says, oh, man, and I put all of this stuff on here, too, because it's good for my self-esteem. Hey, Charles, love your man short stuff, and I'm getting tuned into your podcast as well. Flattery aside, listen, there's no quicker way to get on my good side than flattery. Flattery will get you everywhere with me. I love telling awful jokes or puns for the sake of making people groan but laugh at the same time, of course. I've been told by a friend of mine who's DMing a Monster of the Week campaign that I would be a natural bard. I've dabbled in some Shadowrun, but never really gotten through a few D&D sessions. Or I think he said in the email, never really gotten through more than a few D&D sessions. Stats, race, and obviously vicious mockery aside, what tips do you have for someone who's looking to be a bard that does more than just try and seduce the BBEG? Thanks, and keep doing what you love because we all enjoy it. Thank you for the words, Kenny. I'm not sure if you've ever seen any of the characters that I've played on our campaigns on our channel. Notably, Studebaker Peppercorn comes to mind, and he comes up a lot here. He was a bard warlock, technically, but what I would say, a bard that's not just about like seducing and stuff. I mean, there's plenty of ways that you can do that, right? One that comes to mind is my buddy Justin, who used to host the No Big Banana podcast with me. Justin, I know, ran a bard, and oh man, now I can't think of his name. And it's going to drive me crazy. And what I'm going to probably end up doing is making it the name of the episode. But Justin made a character who was a stand-up comedian, but he was really bad, right? So, like, that was his whole bit. And it's you know, you say that you like making the bad jokes. It sounds like you've answered your question in your question. Just apply the first part of your question to the second part of your question, right? So, like, you make these really bad jokes, but, you know, people really like them. That's your bard. That is, you know, it's not sexual stuff. It's not about seducing the BBEG. It's not about, like, you know, weird whatever stuff. If you want to avoid that kind of stuff completely, then you can just make it about fun. Make him a stand-up comic. That's a bard profession for sure. And maybe they're, you know, they don't necessarily have to be bad either. I mean, it obviously depends on your performance. But, like, also I would say give them some more personality beyond just like whatever their money maker is, right? So like a lot of times I feel like people can maybe sometimes lean into the fact that it's like, oh, well, there's this bard that plays music, and then that's kind of like what he does, and then that becomes like their whole personality. If you give them another element, it becomes really fun, and sometimes even more fun. So like with Studebaker, he was really old, had a horrible memory, and he would just kind of like wander off or like forget what he was doing. But also as he grew up, he was a shoe cobbler. So that's another element of his personality that's separate from the bard stuff. But it just adds to the RP. And honestly, I think that Studebaker with the shoes probably became more of the memorable part of his character. I mean, I certainly think to him cobbling shoes when I think of his character in general, even though like he played the banjo and he cast spells and he did all kinds of other stuff to aid with the party. But I mostly remember him for making shoes. So make your shoes is what I would say. Figure out what it is that about your character that you want to be the appeal, and then just kind of lean into that and or exaggerate it. I mean, you could do it however you want to, but like something to remember, especially for new players to the game, bards are not just musicians. Like, yes, they base everything around like these colleges of music and things. And well, I mean, obviously you've got the College of Swords and there's all kinds of colleges, but all of them have instruments. And that's typically true across the board in entertainers in general. Most entertainers that I've ever encountered in my life, myself included, at least play one instrument, if not a couple, in addition to all of the other stuff they're doing. But all of that said, like, your bard doesn't necessarily have to just be a musician. In fact, maybe they're not good at music. Maybe that's your pull. That's your hook. Is that you're a bard that's terrible at music. And so because you're so bad at music, you've decided that you're going to do stand-up comedy instead. There you go. There's your character. Perfect bard named Roland Rock. Make your shoes. The idea has soul. But he might feel like a heel. Oh, man. Bards are really in the chat tonight, huh? Streamed with Brandon Cutler. Yeah, that is true. We did do a one-shot with him. There is a series on our channel. It is called Airships of Nuada. That is the campaign with Studebaker Peppercorn. Although he does not appear, I don't think, until, I don't know, 9-10 episodes in. So, yeah. Brad Bard Williams. Actor, comedian, musician, maybe even the ring announcer. Yeah, any of those things. Any kind of thing that requires, any kind of artistic stuff is bard material. So hopefully that helps. And thanks for the question, Kenny. And I'm glad that you enjoy this stuff. Thank you for all the nice things that you said. Like I said, flattery will get you everywhere with me. Okay. Whew. Hold on one moment. Oh, I had to get some water. Before we wrap things up here, I do want to do a follow-up question. And I was kind of scrambling at the beginning of the episode to find which episode it was from. And it was from episode 12. But this follow-up question is from Rich. And I want to look at the original question first. So this is from episode 12. This was Rich's question. My world is rather large, 6 continents in all. My question is, in my general areas, I don't have stat blocks for my encounters. Should I write all of these stat blocks or just wait until the PCs are in that general area? And I did look back at that episode a little bit to listen, but I kind of got the gist of what I was saying, and I think I kind of agree with it now. But I just essentially was saying that, you could make random encounters, tables for those kind of things. So you have things that are kind of already in place. But let's see what Rich did. This is the follow-up that I received. I took your advice about random encounters, but I took it one further. Glutton for punishment, aren't we all? I made 4 encounter tables that can happen anywhere in the world. Nice. As far as stat blocks, I figure I can just run battle monster stats as needed for story progression / plot. Thanks for your help and input. Thank you for following up. I appreciate it. I'm glad that this podcast is doing something out there for somebody. But yeah, that's really cool. I think that's great. That's you're a cool DM. That's really cool. Like, and I don't know if your players know that or not. Like, I don't know how privy they are to like your process and what your abilities are, but damn, that's cool, man. I would think that was so cool as a player, knowing that just like, anything kind of anything could kind of pop off at any moment. And yes, obviously that's always the case, but typically there's, the DM has somewhat of an idea in mind, whereas, you've granted yourself the ability to really kind of just go blind, and whatever happens, happens. And it's even a surprise for you. So how fun. But that's super cool. I'm glad that, something that we said helped, or at a minimum inspired you to do the thing that works for you. So I'm glad. Let's see. Bard, who's the barbarian trainer like Mickey from Rocky? Who's the barbarian trainer like Mickey from Rocky was a funny one. I don't remember. Keep up all the creative endeavors. Always happy to see anything y'all do. Chat was awesome tonight. Yes, thank you very much. I appreciate that. So yeah, and then I just got this is strange. I just got an email from somebody that said that it looks like we've gone on a break. Listen, we have been making videos weekly. And this is maybe a good announcement for everybody in chat and anybody who watches this episode. We've been making Dungeons & Dragons Editions videos weekly for multiple years now. So I don't know if I know for sure that there's been huge changes in the algorithm. Obviously, these other websites are trying to keep up with TikTok, and YouTube has probably pushed all of their effort and money into their shorts algorithm, which is never going to be able to compete. Anyway, that said, I know that there's some issues with the algorithm. Maybe people have lost have not gotten our notifications, or the videos aren't being suggested to them. I don't know what the issue is, but if you do enjoy the videos and you want the notifications, make sure that they're on. I know that I have my YouTube notifications period turned off. I don't get any beeps. But that's also because I'm very surgical about how I consume my content. And some people are that way. But if you're in that camp of thinking oh man, you guys don't make as much videos as you used to, or we haven't seen you in a while. We've been making videos weekly for years. And you can check out the channel to see that. We've got one every Sunday. They might not always be funny. They might not always be bangers, but golly, we make one every week. So this is kind of like an answer to a question that's an email that I just got that's not even the Bard Advice email, but yeah, we out here. We making content. So, and I'm, trying to do this weekly. I know that I said last podcast that I was going to be making Frasier character next week, or this last week, and that didn't work out. Wasn't in the cards, but I'm going to try to do it next week. Yes, I know. Drunk Before Noon has indeed been on a break, and that is something that I want to return. It's just a matter of finding the time. I hope that everybody has enjoyed the episode this evening. I think we're going to be signing off here shortly. That hour went by quickly. Probably wasted time talking about nonsense here and there, but man, that was a strong episode. Episode 17, and it's going to be the name of whatever Justin's character was that is the bad comedian. So, oh man, it's going to drive me crazy. Well, all right. Thank you, everybody, for joining this evening. We're going to be signing off here. The email, as a final reminder for everyone, is bardadvice@gmail.com, bardadvice@gmail.com. Please send your questions. I enjoy reading them. Some of them are really funny. Some of them are kind of weird. All of them are appreciated. So send them over to bardadvice@gmail.com. I will be here next week. Same Bard time, same Bard channel. 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on the Man Shorts YouTube channel. This audio version of this podcast will be available tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you all again so much for joining. I'm glad now that we've got a couple more mods in here that we can rely on to make sure that keep the riff-raff out, if and you know what I mean. Hope everybody has a great evening, and we will see you next time.